And welcome to the Diablo podcast, your home for Diablo diehards, tryhards, casual, and hardcore alike. I am your host, Xanth, and today the boys are back in town and we're ready to talk all things Diablo 4 and Season 8. I am joined, of course, by my lovely co host, Nerdwords,
Hello.
and Nightball.
Oh, hi.
Gentlemen, before we get into it, let's just kind of give that rundown. I think everybody needs that at the front end. You gotta know what are we talking about today? Well, we're gonna talk about season 8. We got the campfire chat last week. It was a lengthy one, nice hour and a half, going over all the new goodies. So we'll dig in on this leveling rework, torment rework, class changes, aspirational content, bosses, boss powers. Honestly, guys, I'm a little concerned. We're not even, there's still more things I need to list, and this could be a long one. So buckle up, everybody. We got a lot to get into. But before we do that, what have you guys been playing? We're in this little lull. I think we had espoused our views on the last podcast that the season had kind of petered out for us. What have you guys been doing to occupy yourself?
I,
Monster
I
Hunter
actually
Wilds.
did jump in recently a little bit. I did play a little bit, um, but not a lot because it's the XP just feels like such a slog. Like such a slog from like 250 to 300. And I just don't feel like it's a good return on my investment of time. While I'm still enjoying, what is in the season, and the sort got a little bit of tweaks for ball lightning specifically. Um, it wasn't enough to keep me super interested, so I popped in and played a little bit over the weekend. But other than that, Avowed. I've been playing a lot of Avowed. I very much enjoy that game. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, that's been about it for me.
And Nineball, I know, but you can talk about it now. What have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been hunting monsters. I've been Monster Hunter Wilds. The game has just been absolutely amazing. I haven't played a Monster Hunter game in like over a decade. I going through and playing this one, I don't know why I ever fell off playing the games because it's been great. So yeah, I'm sure that Xantha can go through and tell you that anytime he boots up his PlayStation, that he probably sees me online on Monster Hunter Wilds. Like I literally have been like logging on with my phone at work on my lunch break just to like fish or like collect materials, like gather and stuff like that. So that's how addicted I have been lately.
I think that's great, and I will attest every time I pop on because like my routine typically at night, because I've talked about it before. I like to run in the morning on the treadmill, and I'm playing PlayStation. I have to pop in. My son forgets to put the PlayStation in rest mode, so I'll go in. I got it, and I'll be like, oh, there's Nineball. Nope, he's in the wilds. Shocker. And then I go to bed. Um, but yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy you guys are finding something entertaining. Myself, I have been kind of going through my backlog. Never played the Final Fantasy remake, so that's been on my list. I loved Final Fantasy VII as a kid. It was, it's still in the discussion of like one of my favorite games of all time. Final Fantasy VI is better, but
Agreed.
yeah,
All hail Kefka.
Yes,
yeah,
that
Kefka.
is that
Like
is true.
it.
Yeah.
I
Kefka's the goat.
love that. And then, but I've been meaning to come back to it and have it. Like I've had it for like since it came out. I just got distracted, so I've been working my way through that. And then in tandem, I picked up a retro handheld. I got the Trim UI Brick. Uh, it's a nostalgia machine, guys. It's just a nostalgia machine for me to just go and kill time in the greatest hits of my childhood. As my daughter is at an hour and 15-minute ballet class, there I am in Chrono Trigger, just melting time. And yes, I should be reading a book or something, but this is pretty great. And I'm just loving living in that nostalgia. But this is not a retro handheld podcast. This is not a Monster Hunter Wilds podcast. This isn't an Avowed podcast. This is a Diablo podcast. And Diablo is what we do best. So, gentlemen, we got some news. We found out basically everything. There's a little bit that's getting held to the vest, keeping things a little close to the chest, but most of the details are out there of what we can expect for our next season, what we can expect for all of our classes, and what really the game is going to shape up to be. So let's start with just general impressions. We've come off of a season that we felt was a little too quick, that we've bounced off of. Did this change anything for you? Do you have a renewed vigor? Are you more excited for this season than the previous? Or are you still in a holding pattern?
This is going to go back to some of the comments that I had that, while complaining that Kissime's pants made the season like too easy, it was fun playing the overpowered build because trying to like play a non-meta build in season 6 was grueling. Trying to go through and grind up into Torment 4. And the fact that they're wanting to reassess that, because it's not just the 1 through 60 grind that they want to make like longer, and to me it's like, why? The vast majority of your playtime is at 60, and trying to go through and do the in game. I don't The leveling up, part of the game, I feel doesn't necessarily have to have meaning, and so that them wanting to go through and like stretch that out and make it even longer, I think is going to risk causing people to bounce off of it, because that was one of the issues in the very early stages of the game. It was just too much, to get to level 100 or whatever. And I've never hit Paragon 300. I might never hit Paragon 300, just because that one is just like, I don't have it in me to grind that much. Once the novelty of the new season wears off, it's just not being fun anymore. And then the fact that they're wanting to like retool the item drops, reduce legendaries, but then buff rares and magic items, and it's just, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. And then also like the retooling of like, I know this is going across like a whole different topics, but like making Torment 4 even harder is like, well, is Torment 4 still going to be part of the seasonal journey as it was in season 7? Because then, then your target, I believe from the numbers that they said, is you only want 10% of people to actually complete like the seasonal journey if it's still going to be tied to Torment 4, because you want it to be aspirational and you don't want 50% of the player base actually clearing T4 anymore. It's just like, no. I feel it's going, this is like, you can make it harder, but like this feels like a kind of like a knee jerk, honestly.
All right, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of good things
There's a lot there.
that that we are going to circle back to. But before we do that, Nerberts?
Yeah, I mean, yes to a lot of what Nine said. I mean, I had a lot of fun in the last season. Almost in spite of itself. Like it was almost like it didn't want me to have as much fun as I did. But like you, Nine, like I love the grind, right? I mean, I've grinded 99 in Diablo 2 a lot, right? In Diablo 3, I grinded a lot of Paragon levels beyond what I probably should have or would have normally. But I'm with you. Like I have no desire to grind a Paragon 300 because it slows down to such a crawl, and there's not a great way to grind that XP. Like Infernal Hordes, Pit, but Pit doesn't feel like it's a great source of it.
Yeah. I mean,
At all.
it's just high pit.
Yeah,
You have to
and
be
that's the
farming like
problem.
super high
So
pit.
I need to
Yeah.
roll a barbarian and then
Yeah.
do pit. And
Yeah.
but as a fireball sorcerer, I didn't want to do that. I'm doing
Yeah.
90s, 95s with the patch. I think I was able to do like 100 pretty easy, but like anything over that, and like it's just not worth the time investment to do one level of the pit. So like for me, like I'm with you. I haven't found the call to do it. And mind you, I haven't leveled to 99 in every Diablo 2 ladder as well, right? So I could see myself finding a season and jumping in and being like, okay, this is the season I'm going to do it. I complete the season journey. I do everything I can there, and that's about it. But for me, the dissuading factor for me is that like bossing is the least interesting thing about Diablo 4. Like it's not an interesting gameplay like mechanic at all. I like the ability to target farm, but it becomes like kind of arbitrary in the sense that you're just like, okay, I'm gonna kill this boss 50 times to hope I get that one item, and that also just feels like a waste of time. And a lot of times when I'm playing, 'cause I play with a lot of friends, it'll feel like you're grinding and having fun all week, and saving up all your materials to go into bossing on the weekends, and that's like it's like you're saving up all your materials to spend time being bored while your barb friend one shots all the bosses for you, you know. So I am curious to see how they change that to make that maybe feel a bit better, but I don't know that fighting bosses as often as we are already fighting them is something I want to do more of and make it harder or more interesting. I think I'd rather just do something else. So yeah, I mean, like I'm not like jumping for joy at the season. I'm definitely gonna try it. I'm always excited to try a new Diablo season. I'm gonna give it a shot for sure, but I'm skeptical for sure. And yeah, I really just don't really care for bossing that much. So okay.
So the read of the room is
Eh.
good.
Yeah, I feel it's missing the mark on a couple of places.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that's fair. I I don't think I walked away from the campfire feeling deflated about the state of the game, but I don't think I walked away feeling any different than what I currently do, right? I still will jump in, I still will play. I'm not going to abandon the game, but I'm not like chomping at the bit. I don't see this steering my attention from something else uh the way that the previous seasons had, right? Like going back to season 3 where to me a measurement of a good season is I want to play it for as much as I possibly can because I can understand that that experience is a limited one, right? I'm not going to be able to do this particular thing ever again. Or if it does come back, it's going to be in this limited form. So I want to soak that up as much as I can in a whole bunch of forms. And I don't have that sense yet. But we've talked a lot about, the general overall. Let's drill down. So Nibel, you had already brought up the 1 to 60. This is where they started to put a little bit of their time in saying that, hey, the average time to get to 60 went down. People are getting there really quickly now. So we need to slow that down a bit. I feel like this is a bad choice. I don't think 1 to 60, and we have talked about this on the podcast before, I don't think 1 to 60 matters.
No.
It
You can't find ancestrals, so you're never going to max out aspects. Like the aspects that you find even at that level might be nice for trying to unlock a build, but like you're not going to find the uniques that you need. The aspects are going to be low rolled. All of the gear is going to be replaced extremely quick as soon as you hit the Torment one. Going through and trying to make rares and magic items more viable and reducing the number of legendaries that you get, making the 1 to 60 grind even less important because you're not even going to be able to pick up as many of the aspects that might be able to put your build online as you grind. It all is you're lengthening the amount of time that it takes to make for that 1 through 60, and you're also making it even less useless to your overall experience than you were previously. It just seems like it's you're nerfing it and then making it worse. It's like you're doing it twice. It just does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think anyone loves leveling like 1 to 60 anyways. It's like, okay, got to get through it to start the season realistically. And yeah, I don't know who's clamoring for level to 60 taking longer.
I
I
I
don't know.
see I'm fine with this concept of things moving slower
Yeah, me too.
if they matter. But like
Right.
Yeah,
as you pointed
but it
out,
doesn't.
a
Yeah,
a
it doesn't
yellow
matter. It's
item,
pointless. Yeah.
a blue item,
Mhm.
none of that carries any weight. And like most frustratingly, even if I found a unique, a really great legendary, it's going to have to be replaced because it can't be the best. 1 to 60, because of the way it's split, just doesn't matter. Nothing carries over. It would be awesome if something that I found at level 14 could be usable post 60. Then 1 to 60 matters. Then finding something matters. But it just doesn't. It just doesn't
Right.
work like that. And now lengthening the process. And as a hardcore player, with those difficulty changes, which I am excited for because there will be a little bit more of that rigor because I'm going to hopefully die this season, right? Fingers
What an
crossed.
interesting way to look at it. What an
Yeah.
interesting way to look. I'm hopefully gonna die. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I just got too good, but uh, that 1 to 60 not mattering makes it so much harder on hardcore because you're just like, well, it's just another slog. I don't want to do that again. Where in, a Path of Exile, when I'm going back and after a death, there's always like, hey, there's another good drop right around the corner no matter what my level is. Something that would be usable. That can push you through. That can make that journey a little bit more exciting. And this isn't it. I don't think you change 1 to 60 by just making it longer. It feels wrong.
It it's just it's like one of those ones because like obviously like 1 to 70 didn't matter in Diablo 3, but there was like a fun aspect to the season opener of how fast you could do it. It's like like originally it was like can I get it under 2 hours? Can I get it under an hour? Can I get it under 30 minutes? It's like it's like it was like how fast you could push yourself, like how broken like you could get like a one of the starting cat like the challenge cash crafts and stuff like that, and then they introduced the altar and like that whole meta change with what you do for your opening, but it was like it was just fun because it was like this kind of like pseudo one-off experience that you got, that you tried to maximize how quickly can I do it, but like the with Diablo 4, it's a lot longer, and so it's like, okay, can I get it done in like 6 hours instead of 9 hours? That doesn't have like the same, I don't feel as like competitive, in that sense of trying to do it like really fast.
What would you be competing for too, right? Like what
Yeah,
is like in Diablo 3 you had like the different
conquest
yeah,
leaderboards.
conquests and
Yeah,
stuff that were awesome. Like so there was like something to race for that doesn't like exist. So it's just like
hmm
I don't know, it's just it feels silly. I mean, again, I'm with you. I feel like that like making the game slower paced is a good thing. I think that's great. I don't
yeah.
want to spend more hours in useless content though, right? Like that feels like a waste of time and
Well,
that's different, right?
and I
I
think it's
think
also
that
one of those other things, like to clarify, since we have talked a lot in previous episodes about like wanting to like the slower pace of the game. This isn't slowing the pace of the game. This is
right.
just slowing, this is increasing the amount of time that you have to invest in order to get to end game.
Right.
That once you get there, the pace of the game is still going to be,
Here you go.
balls to the wall fast.
Well, if
It's
you're
just
playing the
like
right builds, for
if you're
sure.
playing the right build. I'm
Right.
a necromancer, so it's kind of like I have to, I'm in the right lane, but
Now, well, back you
Depending
are.
on which bugs show their faces again, because
yeah,
God forbid we ever have a season without 1,000 bugs.
Different conversation. But you're absolutely right that 1 to 60 being expanded, it's going to feel fine on the first character, right? The first character, it's still exciting to like get things going, to like come back, but like the drive to make a second character is going to be harder because there's no way to make it easier per se. I think Diablo 4 is in some ways hindered by the lack of being forced to do the campaign because you just go back to doing the same thing that you want to do in endgame, but the results are lesser and have no value, right? I can go
Hmm.
run a bunch of Helltides at level 10, but it doesn't matter, right? Like nothing good comes from it until it's after 60. So I'm doing all the stuff I want to do, but it sucks. And it just feels like there's a rework that needs to happen. There's something that needs to happen where that feeling does not creep in. Where 1 to 100 or 1 to 60, right? It's hard not to say 1 to 100, but the 1 to 60 matters. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's introduction to Paragon earlier. Maybe we could have this system where every level you just get Paragon points. Or maybe after 50, you start getting Paragon points towards a different. You know what? Never mind. That's a silly
I'm
system.
gouge my eyes out right now.
Like I'm not gonna fix it, but it does feel like lengthening it isn't the answer. If anything, make it shorter because it seems to be that the game really takes off once you hit 60 anyway. So I digress. 1 to 60, not fans. But once you get to 60, hey, Torment has changed. Let's talk about that. What are your thoughts on Torment changing?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a fan of the direction that they're going with it because it's maybe I misinterpreted it, but it sounds like the change is not Torment, it's just Torment 4, right?
Torment 4, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But like now to get to Torment 1, you have to clear pit 10, right?
Yeah.
And
Pits difficulties.
The pit's difficulty is ramped up and
Right.
such, so it's not that I believe isn't, or at least the what I got from that is it hasn't really changed all that much, because it's a lower pit number that you need in order to get into like the torment level, but the pits are harder, so it kind of like pseudo compensates, you know. But yeah, it's like for me, it's like the biggest change that I saw there was that they're trying to make Torment 4 harder, because I think like the numbers that they said was like 50% of players were making it into Torment 4, and they want to make it aspirational, and so they want to take that number down to like 10%. And especially if with season 7 they made Torment 4 part of the seasonal journey. It's like that it just is mind-boggling to me that you want to say we only want 10% of our players to complete the seasonal journey, in order to
Maybe the season journey won't go to Torment 4.
I mean, I'm hoping, but yeah, that's we won't know until the actual season, because that's not even something that's on the PTR.
Right. And
because they made that change in season 7 to make Torment 4 part of the season journey.
And that was the first time that it had made its way there. There was always, like random side content, like, to finish the season's journey, you could kill Uber Lilith as one of them, but it's never required because you always have the option to drop a few.
Yeah, and you could like in season 6, you could kill Uber Lilith in Torment 1. It didn't have to be Torment 4. But then in season 7, it was a requirement, and so it's like it's weird to me. And then also again, like in season 6, like I bounced off of the season for the opposite reason of season 7, is that going through and trying to play like my own Sever build, it was so much of a struggle and a grind trying to go through and jump into Torment 4 without having the super perfect rolled items with like not just one but like double GAs and proper crit rolls on your masterworking and all other types of stuff, just to barely be able to do what like the meta builds like the Bone Spirit I think at the time was going through, and like pushing and stuff like that. That was just like I'm just sitting there on the side of the mountain. It's like, look at what they have, or I'm the fighter jet, look at what they have to do to get a fraction of our power, as the meme goes. It's just like it wasn't fun, trying to play your own thing that wasn't meta, because of just how grindy it was, because you really had to like just sit there and like Nerd was saying, farm bosses until I got a double or triple GA, Grieves the Empty Tomb, in order to go through and make sure that my Sever build could do as much damage as it could and stuff like that. And it's like, and then once I got all that, then I can struggle in Torment 4, in order to try and get the better gear, in order to try and get things back online, until things kind of became a little bit more smooth, in order to play. And that, isn't, I don't know. It's just like one of those things that's like comparison is the thief of joy, but it just doesn't feel right that it's like, because of the way that the game's designed in order to stack as many multiplicative modifiers as you possibly can, that you're just going to make that final tier even harder, because the game is full of so many other broken builds, whether because they were tuned too high, or because they're taking advantage of specific bugs that are blowing multiplicative modifiers out of the water. And it's like, then you're coming through and like saying like Kisami's it being so overpowered was a mistake, and we're going to try and make that more in line, and we're nerfing all other ultimates at the same time as well. And then we're also making Torment 4 harder. Well, part of the reason that 50% of players were in Torment 4 last season was because of these super overpowered builds. So if you're removing the overpowered builds, you're not going to have 50% of the people in there, and then you're also making it harder. It sounds like you're just, it's kind of like, I trust the devs. I know that it's not a knee-jerk reaction, that they're looking at the actual statistics and stuff like that, and that they have a competent team that's going through and doing this. But it feels to me as if it's a knee-jerk reaction, and you're double or tripping nerfing things to meet esoteric statistics that you only want so much of your player base to achieve, as opposed to just like making it fun. I don't know.
I will piggyback off of that and go the opposite direction. I don't trust the devs. I don't trust their vision. I don't think they even know what the hell they're doing at this point. In my opinion, they're going to do this and they're going to roll it back in 2 weeks. It's going to happen right away. Like, let's say they successfully achieve Torment 4 being aspirational content, and only 5 to 10% of the player base is getting there. Do you think that's going to lead to better engagement numbers with the player base or worse engagement numbers with the player base? Right? Do we think that the Diablo community will be happy about that? No. There's no way. There's no way that that's going to be a net positive. And then, just like everything else they've done, they're going to get screamed at and yelled at on the internet, and they're going to roll it all back. That's what's going to happen. I promise you. And moreover, like it feels to me like this live service game is in maintenance mode, not in active development, right? To me, I feel like this is the equivalent of season 20, 22, 24 of Diablo 3, right? And even those seasons had more interactive and engaging mechanics than, okay, we're going to make bosses better and we're going to squish the difficulty a little bit. I don't think that making Diablo or Torment 4 aspirational content is the right answer. I don't think making us grind harder for level 60 is the right answer. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is. I think they've backed themselves into a corner, because at the end of the day, the flags they planted in the sand on this game at launch and then rolled back and then reworked all the loot, and then they're like, okay, now we want to slow it down a little bit more. But we've already learned that it just takes enough complaining for them to roll over on it. So I don't trust the devs. I don't think that because even if I trusted the devs, someone above them is going to make a decision that's going to counteract whatever the hell is going to happen anyway. I hope it feels better, but the game feeling slower and feeling like I can't go do that thing without the like perfect meta build to do it just sucks, honestly. And I know what that, because I felt that the last couple of seasons as a sorcerer, trying to play with my friends that are playing in last season was Spiritborn, this season Barbarian, and even last season's Barbarian a little bit too. Right after they got nerfed, they were still super strong. Yeah, playing with my friends, like I love playing with my buddies, and it was boring. I had way more fun playing by myself. And in an open world game where you can run into barbs and things like that out there, anyways, it kills that experience too. So unless they can like have enough quality control and testing to like remove most of the bugs, like one or two here or there is one thing, but the amount of bugs that exist in every single season is insane for a full AAA live service game. It's actually insane. And at some point, the standard, like, I'm sorry, I gotta call them on it. It's bullshit. Like, it's bullshit. There are games that are in demo mode from far fewer developers with far less money pumped into them that don't have half the bugs this game has.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let's go back a little bit into trusting the devs. And I think you have a valid point about things have been walked back, right? We've seen that time and time again. One of the interesting things that's brought up in the chat was that they are walking back something that they had claimed from the beginning, that they were never going to come on in and adjust a build once it had been kind of online. After, and I'm sorry, Nineball, the Necromancer ruined it for everybody. They had one season
not the barb, and all the times they've done it.
That is operating as intended. But when a Necromancer does it we have to adjust how we go about this. You know what, guys? We need to make changes on the fly. And this is something we've talked about before, that they shouldn't have put themselves in that corner, because these builds crop up and then everything is just, wiped out. Like, because why would you do anything else? But it is an example of what you were talking about, of walking things back, of like, we set this line in the sand. Rod, when I was on Kind of Funny and we did that interview, he even brought that up during that, of saying like, yeah, well, this is something we decided, we're going to let players have fun for the season and then we'll fix it later. Even if I disagreed with it, at least they were keeping to that, and they have now walked that back. It'll be interesting to see if they can stick to that then, because as we know, and the PTR is going now. We didn't make mention of that at the front, but today is the first day of the PTR. So for you, Leviathan, it is the 11th of March. So these builds will crop up, these bugs will crop up, and whether or not they are swift to change them will be interesting, because we haven't had that. As you mentioned, they haven't had that vitriol from players who just got that build online. And I would imagine, coupled with the length it takes to get to 60 and the difficulty to maybe get that build to Torment 4, a player who gets that online and it's a bugged interaction that they then fix is going to be disappointed. Not to say that they shouldn't do it, but I could see there being a little bit more of a clamor once they have to do it, because they haven't had to.
And that's going to be one of those ones that it's really going to come down to the speed with which they address it, because they said they're not waiting for mid-season patches anymore. That's a thing of the past. Anything that's like broken, is going to get nerfed, and it's going to get nerfed fast. Their intent is to do it before the majority of players have a chance to get the build online. So that way they're not, as Xanth was just pointing out, they're not taking away something from you that you've dedicated time and effort in order to go through and get it going, and that you've decided and settled on that build. Their intent is to do that. So hopefully it'd be like day one, day two, kind of like nerfs and such, which that would really only affect speed runners, blasters and things of that nature. But if they're not, if they're addressing it, like going on into that Friday or after the first weekend is way too slow, then at that point, like, I can understand wanting to go through and address like some of those bugs and such in a timely manner. But there's also a point where it's too late, and now you're, as Xanth just pointed out, you're robbing people's fun, and you might be like, completely bricking them depending upon how bad the interaction was. Like, say, like, what was it, season 2 or season 3 Ball Lightning, where it was just like literally dealing hundreds of times more damage than it was supposed to be doing. um and you wouldn't be able to play that build without that bug, period. So it'll be interesting to see the speed with which they actually do it. So the judgment will come in the implementation.
Yeah, and that's what we got to see. Just based on track record, though, I don't have my hopes up.
Yeah.
Such a pessimist. But I think you do bring up some very valid points. And I think Diablo 4 has a lot of, it's too many cooks, right? There are so many things that are behind the scenes. If we're looking, from people's ideas on what the game should be, to to Blizzard's vision for what it should be, to now not Activision, but Microsoft's vision of what it should be. All these things coalescing and shaping Diablo into this strange monster that it is now. We've talked at length about multiplicative damage, right? That's never been addressed, despite it kind of being a monster, because I think it is that thing of, well, do we want people to be able to cruise through content and get high damage numbers? Or do we want it to be slower? Well, now it's slower 1 to 60. Uh, there's these conflicting ideas, and I think it's just lacking that clear Vision, which you've kind of alluded to already, of like them kind of walking back these things, because it just feels like it's a game without a home. It just doesn't know what it wants to be at all times, and unfortunately now by season 8, you would hope it would have kind of coalesced into that idea. It still has so many things going for it, and I feel like the tone of the podcast, right, we're already we're already coming in hot, guys. We're coming in so hot on this. um the game itself is still very fun. There are a lot of great things. If it didn't have those, we wouldn't keep coming back to it. But
For sure.
you want those things, going back to what I was saying before. I want to keep playing for a season. I want to keep pushing for a season. And that wild swings on Vision can prevent that.
Well, you will be, because you'll be playing to level 60 5 or 6 more times
Well,
before you
I
actually get to play the game.
I will die, I would assume, at some point, which will elongate this process. I'm still going hardcore from the start, guys, because that it worked out last season. Why wouldn't it work this one?
Hey,
Um, you brought up aspirational content before. As T4 is this aspirational content now, or that is the goal. What does aspirational mean?
I mean, I'm really like as you say it, it's like it's the most fucking ridiculous thing ever, right? Like, I aspire. No one fucking cares. It's a video game, man. Like, it's a video game. Like, can we just play the video games? We can have content that's a little harder and content that's, but calling it aspirational is the most fucking convoluted, ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life.
I I think like I think aspirational is a fine term, but it's being used incorrectly.
yeah.
There there are certain bosses in Path of Exile that I think fit the bill of aspirational. Like they take a lot of work, there's a lot of farming, and that I probably will never touch, right? That to me feels like something I could aspire to. I don't have to. This is a difficulty mode, right? This is just a tuning
Mhm.
of the knob. I don't think that's aspirational.
The actual definition is having or showing a desire to achieve a high level of success or social status.
Yeah, for me, a pit 150 barring, broken builds would be something that's like, aspirational for most people. It's something that I argued for in Diablo 3 for a very long time. That you would see a much larger engagement in the player base if every build could clear Greater Rift 100. Because like it just being a whole number of 100, that is like an aspirational goal. And once we had like the first couple of rounds of the set buffs and such before they circled back again, that literally everyone could clear like a 100. Like 100s became easy. It's like 150 became the new aspiration. But like Diablo 3 was like getting a lot of traction once they had that and people were able to go through. People were playing longer because I knew that I could get 100 if I just grind a little bit more. That like for me, those types of things are aspirational content, but Torment 4 is not one of them.
It's a
It's
game
not.
mode,
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
the
It's a
peak
game mode.
efficiency game
It's
mode. Yeah.
it's a game mode that as of this current season is required to finish the seasonal journey, and I'm gonna
Yes.
keep bringing that up. Until season 8 comes out and it's just like completed on Torment 1 or higher, and then that will be fine. And I will say I'm sorry for all the times that I complained about it, but Blizzard, you're the ones that are putting me in this situation and making it something that I need to be concerned about, because I am a weekend warrior. It's like I do enjoy, as Zan said, I do enjoy going through playing Diablo 4, but it's not something that I'm burning the midnight oil on, and it's something like it's like I'll play it like the opening weekend. I'll have a lot of fun that first, the first weekend that we get it. Once I kind of like progress through, complete the battle pass, get most of the seasonal journey done, my playtime starts to dwindle as I prioritize other things. And it's just it doesn't have as much of a hold on me as previous iterations have.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do? Like fight Duriel for 14 straight hours? Like what's right? Like what would you do? Right? That's the problem, is that there's nothing that's
That's why
compelling
I
enough
don't
to
have
keep
a
me in my
ring of
computer that
starless
long.
skies. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's
I'm
it,
not
right? Yeah, exactly, right?
because I'm not willing to go through and
Right?
run
Like
Duriel
if
for
it's
14
the
hours in
loot
a
you're
row.
chasing and that's why
Yeah.
you're playing, then you're just doing the bosses, right? Because that's the most
Now,
efficient way to get the loot you need, because everyone uses like out of your 13, 14, 15 slots, 10 or more uniques,
yeah,
because they're just way stronger than legendaries. Yeah, yeah, but we're gonna make rares and magics better. So yeah, yeah, for me, it's just it feels completely tone deaf. Like watching that campfire chat was a mess to me, and it just felt super tone deaf. Like it felt like I'm playing a different game than the devs, and that's okay, right? That is totally fine. If this is the way it's going, that's the way it's going. I'll give it a shot and I'll see how it goes, and I'll probably tap out pretty quick. But I really hope that the PTR brings light some big problems that they reverse course on, or change their mind on, or something, because there's nothing appealing about the new season for me. Um, I think I would do it out of repetition and not out of love, and that sucks.
Wow, it sounds like a marriage.
A little bit.
Hi-yo. Not mine. I love my wife. She's great. But um
I am
it
definitely
does
what you would
it
call a husband wife or wife husband. I love my wife.
yeah, like for the joke, I can't espouse that I have a great marriage. Like that doesn't work. It's funny if I say okay. Like really explaining a joke is how
Best. It's the best thing.
you
Yeah.
draw it out even more.
Bring it home.
And so there, in Nine Ball, you called yourself a weekend warrior, and in other words, I know you play a lot, and we can argue,
Also, we can
right?
work, right? We work full-time jobs, right? We've got like lives. I'm not in
But
college anymore, right? So I've got to,
Um,
yeah.
but we, and we've talked about this before, we are not indicative of the broader Diablo fan
Right.
base because we are tuned into we're watching these fireside chats. We are on a Diablo podcast. We play the game probably more frequently and more often than most. I don't think what they brought up in this fireside chat is endearing to that broader base that doesn't do what we do, because they just made the game significantly harder and maybe
Mm-hmm.
less fun for the person
For the
that is
casual.
going to just pick it up. Because suddenly, if they were in on this season, like, oh, this is a lot slower. Oh, I'm not getting my skills as quickly. Oh, I'm not finding as much items as I was before. Oh, now it's going to take me, like, maybe they do get to 60, right? Oh, well, now I can't get to that next level because all this gear is not dropping at the level that I was before. And I want to point out, I'm not advocating for season six's level. What I think is like that those fundamental issues that persist about Diablo 4 are the itemization and the Paragon system, right? Those two, and we can argue a little bit more in like end game activities, but those two things are I think what changed quality of life for both people on the top end and on the bottom end, and that's not there. All it is for the casual who's going to pick this up, like if you took season 6 off, if you didn't do season 6 and you come in on season 8, it is going to be a hard adjustment. I mean, it's going to be hard to go from 6 to, or from 7 to 6, I should say, or 7 to 8. uh, Conversational mathematics is completely eluding me in basic counting. Um, that I apologize. But if you took season 7 off and you go from 6 to 8, it's going to be hard. If you like, it just doesn't feel, if the goal is to appeal to that broader market, like these choices are going to stick. Like they're going to keep people going.
yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's gonna feel jarring for sure.
I think it's like one of those ones, especially for someone that like you mentioned, that like just comes through, oh, new season, let me go through and play, they're maybe looking at like cliff notes of what the patch changes were. They could be like my wife that just logs in, selects a new character, hits random on the name and starts playing and has no idea what the hell they actually changed in the season. And then all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I got level 60 faster last time. And it's like, yeah, you did. It's like it's like one of
Considerably.
those ones where it's like, are they actually making the 1 to 60 grind more interesting? Not really, you know not at all, so it's just like I think people are going to bounce off of that. I can see that maybe the intention is that, well, it takes longer, it's slower, it's more grindy, you're not getting as much items, the yellow items have more impact, so it gives you more opportunities to engage with stuff, because you're not getting as much as many legendaries, and so you're only looking for those orange beams. Now you actually have to stop and like look at stuff, but people are already like trained. This is season 8, not season 2, and so people are going to be going through and they're just going to be playing for a while. It's like, I haven't been picking up rares, because I'm not supposed to, but I'm not really getting a lot of legendaries, and so now things are actually starting to get hard. Like, you're going to run them into a wall, because of just expectations,
Well, I think
for that aspect.
I think in tandem with that is, if you have taken a few seasons off, you come in on this one, then 1 to 60 is not training you how to do post 60, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because rares aren't going to matter. It's
Nope.
still like all those issues are just it's like we just push the problem completely post 60 as opposed
Yeah.
to it being still present in the 1 to 60 because you were able to breeze through it. All right, we're spending too much time complaining about that. um I think it's valid. It is a total valid conversation. But I think, if you're listening along, you got it, right? You totally got it. You
Yeah.
you know where we stand on this one. There's no surprises anymore. You're like, you know what? I could go for 10 more minutes of this. I would like 10 more minutes of them talking about this leveling experience. Um, it no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do any more of that. So let's transition then. Let's go and jump into, we got new bosses. Conversation for post. We got the seasonal mechanic as well because that ties into them. We're getting boss powers. I saw a post, and I apologize. I did not put this in our chat, um, but it was choose your flavor essentially, and it had each of the power selections that we have had over the past few seasons. It had the UI for the construct, had the UI for the witch powers, the UI for the vampire powers, and then it had the UI for the monster powers. And they all have the same look, obviously different design, but the same concept persisting throughout. I'm excited to mess around with these boss powers. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a cool, fun little thing to play with. I don't know if that's enough though at season 8. When you saw what the new seasonal mechanic was going to be, what were your thoughts?
It's
I
a
mean,
rehash of every other seasonal mechanic. It's the same, just a new color and some different powers. It's the same thing.
um, you know, generally like the same thoughts. It's another borrowed powered system. It is what it is. I was hoping that we would get something like, even though it is still like a borrowed powered system, the construct was still like more of a unique aspect of having to go through and interact with that, as opposed to just farm up resource or boss kills or something to unlock these powers and then put more resources in to make those powers stronger, type thing. Though I do appreciate the fact that they're going through and they're doing this rework of the boss ladder. They're adding in a new like pinnacle boss, at the end of it, and then they're tying the seasonal theme, the borrowed power system into that rework. That I at least can appreciate. From a thematic aspect, that kind of like shines a focus, specifically on the new content, that the content that they've retooled. And I do appreciate it from that aspect.
The only thing it really comes to mind for me is that they're running out of primevals. So like they've got Asmodan, and then they gotta go either Diablo or Bale, right? They're running
Yeah.
out, right? So I was genuinely shocked when they announced Belial. Not disappointed necessarily, but like it looks
Yeah.
like it's literally pulled straight from Diablo 3. So there's not a new boss, it's just an old boss updated for a new game system. Again, I want to come back to the point I made earlier. This doesn't feel like a live service game. It feels like a maintenance mode game. And that's what's disappointing for me, is I've invested a lot of time and a lot of money. And in the idea of the model of Diablo changing to benefit the IP was awesome. It feels like that ship sailed at some point, and it doesn't feel like we're getting the same level of intent or content, if you want to call it that, but intent is what I would say. And it just feels like we're just going to keep rehashing the same issues and the same things in new seasons with more bugs and new problems. I don't like the idea of spending all my time in a boss arena. I already didn't like how much time I was going to spend in it. Now the seasonal mechanics there, so I have to live there, right? If that's how we're farming the boss powers, I'm going to gouge my eyes out. It's going to be miserable. I hope it's different. I hope it's better. I am beyond skeptical because it's my least favorite part of Diablo 4, and it's the whole mechanic for the new season.
I think you bring up an interesting point. We go back to the Season of Blood, which was our first introduction to these borrowed powers, right? Has, outside of tempering, has the game changed since then? Has anything from any of these seasons changed the game in any meaningful way? I guess we could argue the itemization rework, but having that as a seasonal mechanic was different.
I would
Yeah.
say Infernal Hordes.
Okay.
Infernal Hordes, yeah.
I would say they're probably the best mechanic in the game, the one that I would like to do the most. And yeah, and are really cool, and were a different design than some other things that I had seen from them, right? So I would say Infernal Hordes. I would give them credit on that for sure. I really like, I mean, the changes they made to the Helltide made it a lot better and made it a lot more fun and engaging. I think there's still great things about Diablo 4. I think we're just leaning into the wrong parts. Making 1 to 60 longer and making bosses the whole vibe is not it for me. Like, that doesn't sound like a fun season.
I kind of look, at the all of these things that have been put into the game and then just taken away. You talked about the game as a live service growing and changing and adapting from all of these things, building on top of a previous season. And what has been the pattern is we'll take a few things from the previous season, we slap them onto a legendary or an aspect
That we can't use.
that is already in a very crowded market. And then I look at the UI of all these different things, of all these different powers and adjustments. And I think like my interaction with them has been enjoyable. It has been very enjoyable to kind of mix and match and like fine tune to like what's going to work here. And some have been a little bit more vast than others, like you mentioned with the construct. That was super exciting to kind of play with, and like I'm going in here so that I'm gonna shift up this. I want to take all of that. I want all of that to be integrated. I want to be making those kind of choices. I want to build off. I want to still have a construct of sorts. I want to still have these vampire powers or whatever it may
Don't want to
be.
be a vampire.
Right. Why do we just simply cut that out? Why are we not allowing these parts of the game to still happen and to allow the game to adapt. Like, hey, yeah, all right, there's a lot of layers. There's gonna be a lot of things you're gonna have to figure out, but you can end up having this much cooler variety of like, all right, you're gonna want to go vampire, and if you go vampire, then you can't have a construct. But as a result, then you can go into these boss powers, and you're gonna want to take these, which are gonna mix and match, and then suddenly things are opening up because the skill tree doesn't allow for that. The skill tree is just too barren. Paragon boards are not really choices, but you've built in all these cool little systems that could substitute for that. And that would be exciting. And then also, as a player, as somebody who's come back from season to season to season, I'm rewarded for my past knowledge. I can take what I remember from that vampire season of like, oh yeah, I remember I really like that interaction. I want to keep that going. And then I want to, and maybe like the numbers get reduced or whatever it is, but I get to make choices based on my past actions. And the game has evolved. We're all vampires who have robot sensual companions and are stealing powers from these bosses. And that's
And
fucking
witches now too.
right. And witches. And that's fucking awesome. That sounds really fucking cool. Like there's all this cool shit happening. But instead it's just, hey, we're going to here's your new borrowed power. Here's your new Helltide. And the game is very much the same. It is very much the same thing as what it was in, the Season of Blood. It is very much the same thing as what it was in the, the Witch Tide season. And I think that's a disservice. I think it's a disservice not to use all the work that they've put in. Am I onto something? Did I just fix it?
I don't know if you just fixed it, but it definitely is one of those ones where it is, it is a good point that so much development time is going into these mechanics that will never see the light of day again. If you go through and you look at Diablo 3, they didn't start repeating seasonal mechanics, until the game was over, and that, we had the release of Diablo 4. And so we're not going to see your sensual robotic companion again until like Diablo 5. And it's kind of disappointing.
R.I.P.,
And
buddy.
yeah, but it would be cool being able to go through and bring back some of those mechanics like somehow, without it being an aspect, because as we talked about previously, that's
It,
not
it's too
it's not that's
crowded.
not even sustainable. Yeah, it's too crowdable. It's not sustainable even from like
And
a
uniques are
planning
overriding.
perspective. Yeah. It's like, that's like, okay, we'll just turn it into an aspect. How many seasons do you plan on having? How many aspects of seasonal powers did you plan on actually going through and, adding to this pool while still making new aspects and new uniques every season to, buff up builds? I will throw it out there. Gym slots aren't doing anything all that much. Could put some, seasonal mechanics in gym slots. Hey,
Mhm.
But 9
you know,
rune
yeah.
words.
But you only have two. You
Yeah.
only have two.
Yeah,
Plenty of other spaces.
I it's hard not to kind of always go back to the path of exile of it all, but I complete the league. That league mechanic gets a good thorough debate and is more than likely integrated back into the base game. It is in a different format, so it's not at the forefront, but it is something that I get to go and interact with again. And I am once again rewarded for the knowledge and the experience that I've had. And if I missed a season, I get to go and experience again in a different form. But the game evolves, the game changes. And that is just exciting. When we think back to like when Diablo was coming out and it's a live service, we're going to get these seasons. Like the game is going to keep changing. The druid has been the druid this whole time. Like nothing has really changed. There's no new paragon boards. We got one new skill. That sucks. And like not I mean they both kind of suck, but the skill itself sucks. And then like it sucks it was only one skill, right? When I said that sucks, that's why it was kind of like both. Like I hit two birds with one stone. That should be an expression. Um
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow.
I got there. And see the other fun part about that is two birds with one stone, and it's a stone skill. This is like
You're
there's
fired.
so many
You're
layers.
explaining the joke again. You're
Yeah,
So
you're doing it again.
so many
Yeah.
layers to my commentary there, guys.
it's like an ogre. We get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. But like it hasn't changed, and when we make this progression through these boss powers, it's going to be fun. I'm not downplaying that. It will be fun to mess around and to like steal Lilith's little wave there, or the Wandering Death's beam like we saw. There's gonna be some fun
Yeah.
interactions.
That looks like fun.
But wouldn't it also be fun to then take that next season and combine it with whatever else is happening, and your builds just start getting weird? Let's just get fucking weird with it. It's season 8, right? What are we doing
Yeah.
here if not that? Let's get weird with it. They already talked about, changing some of the cosmetics. This is, a side conversation, but like integrating in less realistic cosmetics. Let's just get fucking weird with it.
It's just
So
weird.
let's just go
Yeah.
full Diablo 3. Why even fucking full send? Let's go.
What are we even
Yeah.
doing anymore? It's already there, so let's just fucking weird with it.
And it's funny seeing people go through and talk about Diablo 3 because they're like, hey, what if we did 2 seasonal themes a season? And it's like that actually was a very compelling, argument to go back and play like Diablo 3. Like imagine having, the what was it, the primeval gems with like ethereals at the same time. Like, like that would get some like that would get weird. That'd be fun though,
I would get annoyed because I'd have 2 different screens I have to click in my inventory, and 2 different sets of powers I have to level arbitrarily through a zone I don't want to be in anyway. I hate the season. Like I have like the seasonal. The best part about season 7 was the story. Like the little bits of story that we got with the witch powers and all that stuff was really cool. It was really cool. I enjoyed that. It added more to the world, fleshed some things out. I've enjoyed the story bits. The actual mechanics
honestly,
are
just
boring.
To piggyback on that, props to the narrative team that goes through and is doing like the seasonal storylines and stuff like that, because we know that like the blasters, all the YouTubers
They
and
ignore
Twitch
it.
except for possibly like Riker, completely ignore any of the story content, and so your work never gets talked about. But props to you, narrative team.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. We like it. We don't skip the cutscenes here.
We don't need to slow down the 1 to 60 experience to read.
Also, like and
but-
subscribe. Thank you.
But no,
Got 'em.
I've never been. I don't care about keeping the powers and building on them. I don't want to be a fucking vampire. I don't. I don't.
Roll the tape.
No, I don't. No,
Roll
the
tape.
question I asked was, am I a vampire? Because I don't know if I am or not. It wasn't that I want to be. If I'm there, I'm there. If I'm not, I'm not. It was more a question of they never clarified what was going on until way later. Like, am I still a vampire or not? Do I still have the pet or not? But I don't know. For me, I just feel like all of the seasonal powers that we've gotten have felt very samey. They have felt very samey, and the UI is very samey, and how you grind them is very samey, and it doesn't feel different. Like it doesn't feel like a new season. It feels like just the same season over and over again with new colors and new flavors on the powers, but it just doesn't feel that interesting. And after 8 seasons, I think I've finally grown tired of it. Like for me, it's just like, man, at some point, can we just have like a season that's a little more engaging than it isn't just tacked on powers that we're going to lose eventually? I would love to see them expand the skill tree. Fuck a Paragon board. You and your goddamn Paragon boards.
Well,
like, who cares about Paragon boards?
So
No, I said this before the game launched. We weren't going to get those Paragon boards you thought they were. I hate them. I think they're stupid. You don't even fill them out. You haven't even filled them out, right? You're not even Paragon 300. You haven't even filled them out yet. What do we need a Paragon board for? Give me skill points.
I'm not advocating that I love the Paragon system. I'm just a realist that I don't think the skill tree is going to change, and the Paragon system seems the most likely. Like, here's a new board. Here's 5 new boards. That seems like it would be more probable than we need to completely rework all of the skills. Like that's me being a realist. But you are correct. I would love to see the skills themselves absolutely change.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you integrate these seasonal powers is by putting them there.
Right. That's kind of my thought, is that like instead of like continuing to add on these like temporary borrowed power systems, like could we get a season where like I don't know, instead of make the 1 to 60 longer, but give me 10 more skill points at the end of it. Right? Maybe give me a new tree at the end of it, right? Or maybe a couple branches off of an existing tree. Maybe do anything that's interesting to like change the actual like makeup of the game.
Or
Because right now
I just thought of something.
they just added in a unique item to buff ice shards, which hasn't been relevant since the first preseason build of a sorcerer in Diablo 4. And isn't going to be unless they do some significant changes to the game. Like, it's incredibly frustrating.
What if the seasonal mechanic integrated into the skill tree itself? When you slot in that boss power, it shoots out new branching points for you to actually get new skills.
Wild. Yeah, that sounds interesting. If I could put like a power from Belial into my tree and now I can unlock a new subset of skills or something, that'd be amazing. That would require more design work.
There's a lot of work to be done, but like that's stuff that gets people coming back. And you could take that system and if the borrowed power system was integrated into a skill tree, and then those skills were changing constantly, suddenly builds are different.
It reminds me of the old glyph system in like World of Warcraft, where you had like a separate UI where you could like modify
Oh
skills in certain
yeah.
ways. Because
Mm-hmm.
like think about it, like like wandering deaths, like floating, like spinning beams. Like what if there was something that you could do that allowed you to toggle, like the I forget the name of the skill now for the necromancer, but like the shadow the shadow blight skill, that instead of having it just like the AoE sucking in souls, that it just turns that into like the 360 beam spinny thing. It just allows you to toggle different skills into like those boss abilities, or something like that. That way you could have like a permanent effect in the game, without having to, overcomplicate things too much. So it's not adding a new skill, it's replacing, you can just choose to replace one of your skills with it.
All right. Well, I think so. Now the priority, as we're looking, what does Diablo need? Skill tree rework, and really just overall Paragon system itemization.
Itemization's fine. I don't need to touch itemization
I
again. Like, it's fine.
I
It's fine. They need to remove. They stop adding uniques. Start making legendaries more interesting to overpower the uniques, because uniques are, again, of all the slots you have, most builds that I play or will play use uniques. I have maybe 1 to 3 aspects that I can use, and there's a lot of aspects out there that I'd love to like have the freedom to try and experiment with, and there. But it's just Shroud of False Death is too big.
what if we put the aspects on the skill tree?
I mean, I was actually literally about to say something
I
along
said
those
that.
lines, but
You're trolling me now, right? You're trolling me. This is trolling me. Got it. All right, cool.
No,
just
but
I've said
as
that
I
for 2 years.
they should do that.
I mean,
I
just
agree.
it was just like one of those things that like not even on the skill tree, because there's a lot of like, again, like World of Warcraft, like when they have like those borrowed power systems and such, like if it becomes like iconic enough to that particular class, it just becomes part of the skill set. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times, like I haven't played since they've reintroduced skill trees and such, so I don't know how like it works now, but it used to be like, it's like, hey, it's like that abominations grip thing is like really powerful, really
Yeah.
cool. Death Knights really enjoy it. Okay, Death Knights just get it now. Here you go.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
fun. It's just yours.
Mages have a
Yeah.
shifting power from I think it's from Legion. Might have
Yeah.
been from Legion. One of the powers. Yeah, it's just on the skill tree now, or the talent
Yeah.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like you don't even have the talent for it or anything like that. It's just part of your skill set now.
Yeah.
It's like it's just here.
All right. Well, we're solving a lot of things. I'm really proud of us, honestly. Normally we are
Doing
not
the Lord's
Doing
work.
so much work here.
we're not
Yeah.
this productive most
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
It is a lot more dick jokes and
Fair.
real juvenile humor. But today we showed up. We got some stuff done. But we're not done because we still have more to talk about because this just keeps going. There's just so much. Okay. Skill trees, all of that. This is season 8, and I think we've been kind of dancing around that. We did get the announcement of BlizzCon. BlizzCon is 18 months away from now. There's also a few other things that we should generally expect during that. I mean, 18 months from now, Diablo 4 would be on season, given the normal time frame, season 13, 12, 13.
I'll believe you.
Yeah, I don't care enough to do the math.
Yeah, I didn't want to, but then I looked around. It didn't look like anybody else was going to do it.
Nope.
So.
Yeah, we were just taking your word for it, brother.
Shit. Quick, 8 plus 4, but maybe 1 or 2, maybe they delay in there. 13, 14, somewhere. I don't know. Whatever. Here I go with conversational mathematics again.
Hey.
So that means another 6 seasons, give or take. And what
Yikes.
I would assume is 1 expansion, right? There should be an expansion before BlizzCon. We were told already that we could expect it, next year. So
It since BlizzCon's going to be in September, it could come afterwards.
you think it would be that long for this
Potentially.
expansion?
Yeah.
In 20, but like it's 2026. I would expect. Oh shit! Yeah, you might be right. That would be such a long time.
Yeah. When they said delayed to
Compared-
2026, I'm not expecting 4 months is going to release in February. I'm expecting that it's going to be, quarter
Like
4
fall.
2026. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, long time compared to what?
Compared to the last expansion.
Oh, the Spiritborn one, which was probably already ready before the game even launched, and they just kind of fine-tuned it as the game went through beta testing the first year. Yeah, totally, for sure. But 10 years between games is usually the par for the course. So
that is true. And
I'll take a year and a half. It's
mean,
fine. I'll take a year and a half.
I will say the wait for the other second expansions has been significantly longer. So I guess this would be.
Yeah, we're still waiting on all that. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Thank you. I'm glad you got there eventually.
I did.
I saw it.
Caught
I
up.
saw it like just kind of coming back.
It clicked. Yep.
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 Yeah, I don't know. I what does this game look like in a year?
A lot
1 to
more
60,
uniques.
even longer.
1 to 60 actually takes 60 days.
Yeah.
Years actually.
Yeah. No, days. No, that years is a bit dramatic. Is days, 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I that's the thing is there's no way to tell because this game doesn't feel like it has an identity. Like where it was in the mission statement and kind of where they were when they started, and then rolling all that stuff back, and then the sweeping itemization changes not once but twice. And then now like it just feels really weird. Feels real weird. It's the weird years for Diablo 4 right now. They gotta experiment with some shit, right? They're trying an open relationship. They've never done it before. They don't know how they feel about it. It's causing some insecurity problems. It's I don't know. I think that hopefully a more solid vision.
That's such a weird comparison. Are you okay? Are things good at home?
Oh yeah, no, wonderful. But they're going through some weird
years. That was just like oddly specific.
Well, I was trying to think of something that would correlate, and it went there.
Okay,
but I don't know. I feel like where if you looked at all the trailers and all the press conferences and all of the interviews leading up to Diablo 4, and then you fast forwarded to where we are right now, and saw that campfire chat, you'd be so fucking confused, right? Like you would be incredibly confused, because they've not been able to stay on target. and they haven't been able to stay on target because of a fan base that was bucking that system for sure. But it feels like it's all over the place. Like, do they want us to take forever to level? Do they want it to be slow and meaningful, and they want our loot to make sense or to matter as we go? Great. But that's not what they're doing. They're just making it longer, right? Like they're just making it longer. So I don't know. I have hope for it, but it just I really don't like the idea of a boss ladder season. I really don't. I hope I'm wrong, and if I am, I'll pop on here and be like, "Oh my God, fighting Belial's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me." I just don't foresee that being the thing.
Yeah, we didn't touch on it, but we do get new bosses, right? We got a few new bosses coming on in. We're gonna get Dog Fisto.
Yeah.
They're newish. Uravar and 2 forms of Belial. Baby
That's the
Belial.
newest boss, actually.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's also not because and we haven't seen the Belial fight, right?
It's the same models.
But it does look very similar to the Diablo. I mean, he should look kind of similar, right? Primevals don't really change that much.
I don't know. Yeah, Diablo definitely didn't look completely different from Diablo 1 to Diablo 2 to Diablo 3 to Diablo 4 for sure.
Whoa. Hold on.
I mean, yeah, Diablo 4, he looks really different.
Yeah, super different.
Yeah.
Clear. He's clear.
Like almost looks just
Crystal.
like John Cena. I think they actually got him to play Diablo. In fact.
You know, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Someone beat you to it. Yeah. Am I expecting the Belial fight to be amazing? I think my problem with the Belial fight is, from what I've seen, is not the fight itself. And I've said before on the podcast that I actually I like some of the bosses when you do fight them at about the power level you're supposed to. Not meant to be like uber, like they take 20 minutes. It's not a Dark Souls boss, but like, hey, this is 1 to 2 minutes. I have to pay attention to the mechanics. If that's what this is, that's awesome. But the problem still then is the loot, right? Like, if the loot that is dropping isn't that interesting, it doesn't matter. And seeing Belial's loot table of like, well, it's all of the loot tables. You get carte blanche. You can just choose, and it's like, well, but if this is, I could just go run the other bosses then, right? I could just go do those other bosses that don't take as much work to get to, and yes, they may not drop as much loot, but Belial seems like a lot more work.
But Belial's a double boss, and it's not any more work. Like, you get the materials from killing the Belials that spawn when you fight the other bosses. So you just accumulate them, and then you can use them to fight the Uber Belial. So it's like, I think that's somewhat positive, I guess. I don't know.
No.
Until we play it, it's hard to say. But I don't think it's going to be like more challenging. But I do agree with you on the loot table thing. Like, I saw one of the notes on the PTR that like blew my mind a little bit. That was like, the first unique that drops from the bosses now, like, will be from their loot pool, and then all the other uniques have a 50% chance to be from any of the loot pools. Right. But you also get a 33% chance per player in your party to have another item from their loot pool. So if I need to farm Varshan for an item, I'm guaranteed 1 drop from the loot pool, whereas before I was getting a whole mess of drops from you really think that's gonna last? That's gonna stick?
This is like one of those ones where it's like, I feel that they have a problem and they try to come up with 2 solutions at the same time. One of the problems is that, like, I don't need anything off of Varshan, but I've got to farm him for the boss mats in order to go through and run another boss. And so, like, all of my time spent farming him is useless, specifically to go through and get these boss mats. Well, they've made it so now specifically I just have to farm this one boss to get the mats to fight, Duriel or Andariel, or Wolfisto, and that that I'm now not stuck having to farm like multiple bosses, or making it more linear, easier to do. And then any boss that I fight has a chance of having mini Belial to give me the materials that's necessary to summon big Belial. But then at the same time, they're like, well, let's also address that by changing up the loot pools, so that way, you don't feel like that you have to fight like this one boss. But it's like, but I still want like that dedicated loot pool, so that way I can acquire the items. Now you're just
Right.
making, harder to get the items. You're not making it more
Right.
engaging. You're just making it longer. You know.
Right. It feels like that's the actual season, like
Yeah.
this season. It's like, let's just make the game arbitrarily longer,
Yeah.
but with no extra added benefit. So, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, I'm still gonna get suckered into it. I'm still gonna get suckered into that journey, but I bound we we all kind of bounced off last season a little bit faster. Nerwords, you were the one who was there the longest, but
I stuck it out of like just pure,
spite.
like, no, I mean, not spite necessarily, but like I really was trying to make myself play for longer than most others. I was like, okay, everyone else kind of stopped. I'm gonna keep going. And then I eventually was like, why am I doing this? Like, what? Avowed is out. I'm gonna play Avowed. This is stupid. Like,
Mm,
so I just did.
which
Um,
which is fair. I just think the way the game has moved over the course of the year, that I think people are more likely to bounce when hitting that friction,
yeah,
which again, if there's nothing on the other side of it, right? If there's nothing that like T4 is aspirational, or Belial on T4 is the end goal, but there's no reason to do it, then I'm not going to hang on. I'm not gonna keep
Um,
going. And I think you can risk losing more players the other way. And it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation that we alluded to on the previous podcast, of like the player base is so wild. We have so many
yeah.
of people that are in that we know that are in this kind of realm, that are far more concerned with this game than what we probably should be. And then there are those casuals. Like my son will pop in on a season, and he will bounce off seasons so quickly. He's like, "Oh, this is fun," and then like, I got to get back to that Fortnite. I got to get back to,
Something that's more entertaining,
yeah,
like a live service game.
yeah. He's actually gotten into Helldivers, so I'm like, all right, cool, good on you, kid.
Great game.
Yeah. Uh, I'm I'm happy to see him just get off of Fortnite, really, because come on, what
Right.
what the hell are you doing, kid? Like, what have I done? I didn't think I was gonna raise a Fortnite kid.
Now, hang on. You know, you
nice.
hater. You are being a hater right now,
Mm.
because you know as well as I do. If we were kids, right? We can all
Oh,
think back to this time. Hang on, David. If we were kids, and you could go into your bedroom and turn on GoldenEye, right? And jump online and play with with 7 more of your friends, would you have done anything else?
oh no, absolutely. I totally get it, but I
Right.
am a
Yeah.
41-year-old man.
Sure. We're lucky that our kids are even functional people, right? Because that
Nah,
is insane.
most of them aren't. Um,
That's fair.
I
That is
work
I
fair.
mean, and
I work
here
in the
I'm just
education
thinking
mines, so I know.
he could be playing League instead.
True.
Yeah, I guess.
Um,
So I haven't failed
it
entirely as a
could be
parent.
worse. It
Could
it
be
could be
worse.
worse.
Yeah.
It could be. Okay. We're going long. And we don't need to just spend all this time crapping on my parenting. So,
We
that's
we have we have changed the format of the show just to increase the runtime.
it's actually an intervention at this point. So, uh we don't have time for certain things. We didn't talk about classes and the changes, which class changes are: we got new items and and new
Got
aspects,
we got one new unique, one new aspect,
right? Which
reworked,
as
capping on ultimate
They made
damage.
their quota, which is what they do every
right,
season. That's it.
which yeah, kind of coming back to what you've kind of brought up a lot, Nerds. It's a rehash, right? It is the here's the traditional one new unique, one new aspect. Still no new Paragon boards, by the way. But we're not going to talk about that. I'm curious. We're not doing the PTR, right? But season 8 will launch. We still don't even know the date yet for season 8, right? Um, when it does launch, though, based on what you've seen, what are your plans? Are you going to go in? Is it still day one for you? Are you still season launch back in, or have you soured that you'll get to it when the time comes?
I will probably, have like 5-6 hours of gameplay by that Saturday. The unless it's like really good, it's gonna be one of those ones where I'll have I just won't prioritize it that high, on a work day. But then once it's the weekends there, I'll be able to sit down, devote some time to it, go through and blasting, and see what it is. I'm interested. This was supposed to be the season that they had buffed minions, but because of bugs, they were broken and nearly unplayable. And so, even though those things have been fixed and the focus seems to be on minions again for next season, we'll be going through and trying to give that a shot, and we'll see how it goes.
Stop trying to make minions happen. It's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. Yeah,
Their words?
they did it one season.
Yeah.
We're going for two.
There'll probably be another season of me trying out the new thing and then going back to whatever variant of either ball lightning, chain lightning, or fireball or firebolt is able to push me above tier 100 so I can actually get my glyphs leveled. Yeah, my new unique makes ice shards spread out with 2 additional shards though, so that's sick. Yeah, I'm gonna play sorcerer because I hate myself. That's it. That's my plan.
That's been
Will I
established.
play day one if they continue doing it Tuesday? Fuck no. No, hell no. I might play for an hour at like weeknights are really bad for me because work. I can play like some nights, sure, no problem, but it's yeah, it's not good. I like the Friday launches. Friday launches were like what I looked forward to, and not being it honestly like it kind of kills me on a lot of the game because launching on a Tuesday, I have friends that can play. So by the time I get to Friday, I'm just getting carried if I want to play with my friends. If I play with myself, then I'm considerably behind. So it really kills the vibe of a season for me. I hate the Tuesday launches a lot.
So if we slow down
I
1 to
would
60 a little bit more, you'll be caught up.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that's it. Nerf the 1 to 60 for a little bit more. We'll be good.
Even a Thursday would be better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah,
This Tuesday shit sucks.
Yeah, Tuesdays are rough.
I will still drop in, like, because I'm excited. My contemplation is I think I'm gonna go Spiritborn. I neglected it last season. I'm not super keen on what the Druid is doing this season. I I want the human, Stormcaster to kind of be a cool thing. They got the helm. It just doesn't seem like it's there yet. Uh, it's gonna be hard, and I really don't like the I need to be in werewolf to cast. So yeah, I'm gonna give a Spiritborn a try. That is my plan. It's going to be a very crowded April though. If nobody else is paying attention, Last Epoch is launching um, their new league expansion update. I think is the easiest way. Their new update goes April 2nd. Then Path of Exile launches their major new content update April 4th. And then Diablo launches season 8 at some point in April. You're going to have an April. It's April RPG.
And Monster Hunter Wilds title update #1 is early April.
So there's a lot that's going to be happening in April. And this would be, I would argue, probably the first time that Diablo has had a lot of competition happening simultaneously as it's launching a season. The last season launched, a little bit after Path of Exile 2 had gone into its early access. So it wasn't directly competing, but 2-3 weeks out from a new content patch, it's going to have to try and pull a lot of the same people, and it'll be interesting to see how much that draws in. Plus, you add in Last Epoch, and Last Epoch is this weird middle child between those two games, right? It's not as hardcore as Path of Exile, and it's not as casual as Diablo 4 can be. So it's like that weird. It's not my. I like it. I don't love it. It's not the Goldilocks between the two. If anybody is like, "Oh, I'll just go play that," no, it's not. It's not the Goldilocks, but it's good. It is a good game. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. It'll be interesting to see where people are gravitating towards, and it's hard to juggle multiple ARPGs. It's hard to do and play all of them simultaneously when there is like more of a scaffolding of these releases, 1-2 months in between. Perfect, right? Because that's when you bounce off anyway. April's going to be weird. I'm curious to see where season 8 opts to launch. If the PTR is ending this week, right? It's ending on it's ending on the 18th.
Yep.
Normal timetable is like a month after PTR, right? That we end up getting that season. So that would be about 2 weeks after that both Epoch and PoE 2 have their updates. That'll be interesting. Let's see what happens. In the meantime, we've been complaining this whole time.
Not the whole time. We gave the narrative devs their props.
We did. And you know what? They do great.
They do great.
They do.
They do great.
Appreciate you.
If you made it through, I'm curious. What did you think of what we got for season 8? What are your season 8 plans, and what are your thoughts on kind of what was discussed here today of the rehashing, the lack of innovation, and the direction of the game? Are we wrong? That's okay. We're gonna get shit wrong. I like a little spirited debate.
Vehemently.
Let us know and sound off. I got to bring it back one more thing. And before that sounds like we're closing out. We're not. Season 8, cow level.
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
I mean, do we get a cow level before BlizzCon?
Oh, that's a question.
That is a question.
All right. Well, think on it. You don't have to answer it. Maybe somebody out there. All the speculation is going. Year and a half. I say a Diablo 4 Sans cow level for over 2+ years, all the way, and then we're going into 2026. That's a huge misstep. That feels.
Here's the real question: will we have a cow level before we have Diablo in Diablo 4?
Yes.
Really? You think we'll have a cow level before? Yeah, I could see it.
Well, I mean, Diablo ain't coming in the next expansion.
No.
I'm questioning whether Mephisto will be playable or fightable in the next expansion. The way things are going.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we will see. In the meantime, while we ruminate with all these changes and maybe dabble in a PTR, I'm actually kind of tempted now. All this talk about Diablo has got me wanting to do some Diablo.
I'm gonna try it this weekend.
Yeah. Let's close.
I've got Gormagalas to hunt.
Yeah. It's fair. Let's close it out as we always do with a moo moo moo.
Moo moo moo.
Woo!